Former broadcaster Ed Mitchell enjoyed a glamorous and brilliant media career before his downfall, leaving him homeless and sleeping on the streets of Hove. The respected presenter worked for ITN, BBC, and Sky News, among other broadcasters, and interviewed famous figures such as Margaret Thatcher, John Major, and Tony Blair throughout his illustrious career. At one point, he earned £100,000 a year and lived a lifestyle most of his television viewers could only dream of. However, his move to the American broadcaster CNBC marked the beginning of his decline. In 1999, he was laid off from his position as a business and finance reporter, earning £90,000 a year, and fell into financial hardship. He began using his 25 credit cards to pay off debts, but although he found some freelance work, his income was quickly consumed by the enormous interest payments. "No matter how much you pay, you can never pay it all off," he said at the time. It got out of control. The mail kept pouring in, but in the end, they were just wasting paper. Eventually, he had to sell his £500,000 house in Hove, East Sussex, to cover his debts after declaring bankruptcy. In a 2008 ITV documentary chronicling his journey to rebuild his life, he admitted, "It's ironic that someone who should have been an expert in business and financial journalism ended up in such a dire financial situation." His financial difficulties were exacerbated by his struggles with alcoholism from the early days of his career. In his book, What Doesn't Kill You? 15 Survival Stories from 2020, he confessed, "I never felt completely comfortable on air until I'd had a few drinks. Balancing calm confidence with incoherent stuttering was always key." In the same article, he acknowledged being fired from CNBC for an alcohol-related incident. He managed to survive for 6 years after being laid off, but eventually it all came to an end, and he had to tell his wife of 25 years, who had repeatedly tried to intervene in his alcoholism, that bankruptcy was their only option. By mid-2006, he had nothing left. His wife had divorced him, his house had been sold to pay off the mortgage, and he was no assets, no income, and no idea what would happen next. After spending time living with others and sleeping in city council shelters, he had no choice but to go out onto the streets, where a reporter found him 10 days before Christmas 2007 and brought his story to public attention, something he admits made him uncomfortable. However, it was also a turning point. He quickly became the central figure in the documentary Saving Ed Mitchell, hosted by his ITN colleague Carol Barnes, detailing his struggles and showing that he was offered a chance to return to hosting if he joined Priory's rehabilitation program. He also signed a book publishing deal and subsequently wrote the best-selling book From Headlines to Hard Times, published in 2009. He earned enough money from book sales to move into an apartment in Shoreham-by-Sea. Over the years, he admitted to relapsing and undergoing another rehabilitation program, but he managed to rebuild his life. In 2012, he remarried. He met Mandy Tynes during his darkest days, sleeping rough, when she brought me coffee and soup, so she witnessed his worst moments. In 2009, it was announced that he would be developing and hosting for In Excess Television. In November 2014, he began hosting a daily program for the new financial radio station Share Radio in London. He also trained aspiring broadcasters, passing on his skills to the next generation and maintaining a stable media career. "The best thing was escaping permanent homelessness," he said in 2020. "Only my past as a television celebrity helped me get out of that abyss."